Throwaway account for obvious reasons. Still processing everything and needed to get this off my chest. My wife, Emma, and I met in college during our senior year. We dated for 3 years before getting married, and we've been married for 4 years now. We have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter named Lily. Until about 6 months ago, I would have described our marriage as solid. Not perfect. No relationship is, but we communicated well, enjoyed each other's company, and seemed to share the same vision for our future. I work as a software engineer for a tech company, mostly remote with occasional office days. Emma works in marketing for a growing startup that she joined about 18 months ago. She was excited about the opportunity, better pay, room for advancement, and a team that seemed to appreciate her skills. The new job came with some longer hours occasionally, but nothing unreasonable, and I supported her career growth completely. Looking back, I now see the warning signs that began around September last year. The late nights at the office became more frequent. Initially, it was once a week, usually Thursday for team meetings. Then it became twice a week, then 3 times. When I asked about the sudden increase in late nights, Emma would mention project deadlines, client emergencies, or team building events. Marketing is a demanding field, especially for a growing company, she'd say. We're trying to establish ourselves in the market. I believed her. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? The phone behavior changes were subtle at first. Emma had always been relatively open with her phone. Not that we snooped through each other's devices, but there was a casual openness. She'd ask me to check a text if her hands were full, or I'd use her phone to take pictures if mine was charging. That changed gradually. She began keeping her phone face down. She'd take calls in another room, saying she didn't want to disturb me or wake Lily. Her phone went everywhere with her, even short trips to the bathroom. She added a fingerprint lock, which wasn't suspicious on its own, but combined with everything else. I ignored these signs, chalking them up to work stress or my own insecurity. The foundation of our relationship was strong, or so I thought. D-Day came on a Tuesday evening in late January. Emma had texted that she'd be working late again, the 3rd time that week. I'd put Lily to bed and was doing some laundry when I found a receipt in Emma's jacket pocket. It was from a restaurant across town, an expensive place we'd talked about trying for our anniversary, but never got around to. The receipt showed dinner for 2 at 8:30 p.m. on a night she told me she was working late. That discovery sent my mind racing, but I needed more evidence before jumping to conclusions. I'm not proud of what I did next, but that night, while Emma slept, I checked her phone. She had changed her password, but I knew her pattern. She used variations of meaningful dates. After a few attempts, I was in. What I found destroyed me. Hundreds of text messages with Jason, her team lead, dating back 3 months. The texts started professional but quickly turned flirtatious, then explicit. There were photos I wish I could unsee, plans for meetups disguised as working late, detailed accounts of their encounters. Worse, there were messages where they joked about deceiving me. One message from Jason read, "Does your husband suspect anything?" Emma's reply, "No. He trusts me completely. It's almost too easy." That broke something inside me. It wasn't just the physical betrayal. It was the callousness, the mockery of my trust. I couldn't sleep that night. I copied some of the messages as evidence, then returned her phone exactly as I'd found it. The next day, I called in sick to work and spent hours in a daze trying to figure out what to do. I even drove past her office at 9 p.m. when she was supposedly in a client meeting, only to find her car gone. A quick check of our location sharing app, which we'd set up for emergencies, showed her at an address I didn't recognize, an apartment complex across town. I waited 2 more days, gathering my thoughts and evidence. I arranged for my parents to take Lily for the weekend, telling Emma it would give us some time that we desperately needed. She seemed enthusiastic about the idea, which now felt like another twist of the knife. That Friday evening, after Lily was safely with my parents, I sat Emma down in our living room. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know about Jason." Her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, shock, then denial. "Jason, my team led? What about him?" "I know you've been sleeping with him, Emma. I've seen the texts. I know about the dinners, the apartment visits. I know everything." She attempted denial for about 5 minutes, asking how I could accuse her of such things, questioning my trust in her. But when I mentioned specific dates and showed her a screenshot I'd taken of one particularly explicit conversation, Her demeanor changed completely. "How dare you go through my phone?" she said, suddenly angry, as if my violation of her privacy was worse than her betrayal. After a long silence, she admitted it had started 3 months ago. Jason had joined the company last summer as the new marketing team led. What began as innocent flirtation at office happy hours gradually escalated. The first physical encounter happened after a late strategy session when everyone else had gone home. "It wasn't planned," she said, as if that made it better. "It just happened." But it didn't just happen once. It continued for months. Weekly meetups at his apartment, lunch dates, even a weekend conference that I now realized had been a cover for them to spend time together. When I asked the inevitable question, "Why?" her answer cut deeper than the affair itself. "I felt appreciated with him, desired, not just as a mother or a wife, but as a woman." "Did you ever think about ending it?" I asked. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but then we'd see each other at work, and it was exciting. The secrecy, the risk, and us, our family." "Lily," I compartmentalized, she said. "What Jason and I had was separate from my life with you and Lily." But it wasn't separate. It had invaded every aspect of our life together. Her lies about working late had stolen time from our family. Her emotional investment in another man had drained what should have been ours. Her compartmentalization was just a way to justify having both without the consequences. The most disturbing part was how she seemed more upset about being caught than about hurting me. There were tears, yes, but they felt self-serving, mourning the collapse of her carefully constructed double life rather than genuine remorse. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, Emma tried to initiate a conversation about working through this and rebuilding trust. She suggested couples counseling, promised to end things with Jason immediately, and pledged complete transparency going forward. But something had broken inside me. The casual cruelty of those text messages kept replaying in my mind. "It's almost too easy. How could I ever trust her again?" I spent the weekend in a haze of grief and anger. I consulted with a lawyer on Monday to understand my options. I spoke with a therapist to help process my emotions. I confided in my brother, who had experienced something similar in his first marriage. Emma, meanwhile, swung between remorse and defensiveness. She deleted Jason's contact, at least she claimed to, offered to let me see her phone anytime, and even suggested she could look for another job. But there were moments when her true feelings showed through, like when she asked how long I would punish her for this mistake, as if an intentional 3-month affair could be classified as a simple error in judgment. A week after D-Day, I discovered she was still in contact with Jason, not through regular texts, but through a work messaging app I hadn't known about. A notification popped up on her laptop while she was in the shower. "Missing you. Can we talk?" So much for ending things immediately. When confronted with this second deception, Emma broke down completely. This time, the tears seemed real. She admitted she hadn't fully cut ties, that Jason had been pressuring her to leave me, promising they could build a life together. "But I chose you," she insisted. "I told him today it was over for good." I wanted to believe her. Part of me still loved the woman I thought she was, but that woman had never really existed. 3 weeks after discovering the affair, I asked Emma to move out temporarily. I needed space to think clearly without her constant attempts to manage the situation. She went to stay with her sister, while I remained in our home with Lily, adjusting to our new reality as a fractured family. The separation brought clarity. I realized I could forgive a momentary lapse in judgment, perhaps even a brief affair followed by genuine remorse and changed behavior. The calculated lies, the mockery of my trust, the continued contact, even after being caught. These weren't the actions of someone who made a mistake. They were the actions of someone who felt entitled to betray their partner as long as they didn't get caught. During our separation, I discovered even more lies. The affair had actually started earlier than she admitted, closer to 6 months rather than 3. There had been a company trip where they had shared a room, claiming to their colleagues they had separate accommodations. She had used our joint credit card for some of their rendezvous, disguising the charges as work expenses that I would eventually have to help pay for. Each new revelation made the decision clearer. 6 weeks after D-Day, I told Emma I wanted a divorce. The news spread quickly through our social circle. Most of our friends were supportive, though some suggested we try harder to work things out for Lily's sake. My parents stood firmly behind my decision, while Emma's family initially tried to mediate before eventually accepting the situation. As for Jason, he apparently cooled on the relationship once it was out in the open and carried the stigma of a broken family. According to mutual friends, he started dating someone else at the company within weeks after Emma moved out. So much for building a life together. It's been 4 months since D-Day and 2 months since I filed for divorce. We're working through the legal process, focusing on co-parenting Lily as effectively as possible. We've agreed on a temporary custody arrangement while the divorce proceeds, with Lily staying primarily with me at our family home to maintain stability. The pain hasn't disappeared, but it's evolving. The sharp, breathtaking agony of betrayal has gradually transformed into a dull ache of disappointment and loss. I mourn not just the end of my marriage, but the death of the future I had imagined for us. I've started individual therapy, which has been tremendously helpful. I've reconnected with friends I had neglected. I've thrown myself into being the best father I can be for Lily, who fortunately is too young to understand what's happening. Emma has shown what appears to be genuine remorse in recent weeks, especially after Jason's true colors became apparent. She's suggested reconciliation several times, but I remain firm in my decision. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some trust can't be rebuilt. Edit 1. Wow, I didn't expect this post to get so much attention. Thank you all for the supportive comments and messages. To address some common questions, 1. Why didn't you confront her immediately when you found the texts? I needed time to process and wanted to gather my thoughts. Confronting her in the heat of the moment might have led to more denial or made it harder to get the full truth. 2. Have you gotten tested for SATs? Yes, that was one of the first things I did. All clear, thankfully. 3. Did you inform HR at her company? No, I decided to keep this out of her workplace. While their relationship violated company policy, involving her employment would only complicate our co-parenting relationship moving forward and potentially impact her ability to provide for Lily. 4. Is Jason married in a relationship? No, he's single as far as I know, which makes the secrecy and deception even more painful. It wasn't about hiding from another relationship. It was specifically about deceiving me. I'll update if anything significant changes. Thank you again for the support during this difficult time.